And boom, according to that, I am live. Welcome to Tokyo Tonight. My name is Hiko Simon. It is 10:30 p.m. Japan Standard Time. It is Sunday evening. And Sunday day, I guess, wherever you are in the world. If you're in Hawaii, it might still be the end of Saturday. No, it's probably already pretty much Sunday everywhere. In New Zealand, it's actually already tomorrow, come think of it. So there we go. The rest of the world is Sunday. How you all doing? I was going to say it's been a quiet week, but then all of a sudden, just a couple of hours ago, the Prime Minister of Japan, Shigeru Ishiba, said, screw you guys, I'm going home. So he has resigned, which everyone's kind of seen coming for pretty much the entire 11 months that he was Prime Minister. So again, we'll talk about that tonight. Tokyo in general, we had a typhoon this week, or at least it was a typhoon, but it was a bit of a non-event, honestly, in Tokyo. We get them pretty often, and the city's pretty well made for them. It was actually kind of nice. It was cooler weather, lovely breeze, and we actually had a couple of cool days after that. The heat's back today, but it's like 31, 32 instead of like 36, 37 like it's been for weeks now. Officially, by the way, the hottest summer ever in Japan, although it's the same story every year. It's like Groundhog Day, but it's hot. So yes, it's getting better now. So that is a thing. What else? There's actually, man, things are rushing up quickly. Next weekend, it is currently the 7th. Next weekend, I'm going to be in America. So I guess I'm not going to be able to do this at the normal time. I'll be in Seattle. It'll be a crappy time zone for this. And come think of it, it will be, I guess it'll be Sunday morning, but it'll be like super early and I'll be jet lagged as hell. So I guess I'll take a rain check. I'm flying out Saturday. But I'll probably be back the Sunday after that. We'll see how I survive. But yeah, hope everything is good with everyone here. Glad to see everybody rocking in as usual. Let's check it out. We've got Dan H in here, and they said that there's no news coming from Japan this week. This week was so much. Yeah, it turns out there was some stuff, so we'll definitely talk about that. Yeah, we've got Kerberos Tenshi in here. Glad that you could make it, as always. Who else we got in here? We've got myself, Tokyo Digital Crew. By the way, nice to see Jane Watts commenting down there. I did like your reaction. The yeah boy is exactly the reaction I was going for. I never played drum and bass in the mashes before because I figured if you know my taste in music, you know that for me, drum and bass would instantly be me. And I was always trying to kind of like compete while like hiding whether it's me. Playing hip hop and stuff like that, which I also love. But this week, Mr. Brightside, it was just so good for drum and bass, and I just unleashed. I found some drops that were in key for the song, and I just went to hell. And you can watch me. You can watch how much fun I have playing drum and bass if you check out the Tokyo Digital Crew channel. I just sent the premiere of the winning track this week. The Crown has returned. Well, returned last week, but yes, not letting it go. But yeah, that was really, I really enjoyed that this week. So last week. So DJ Sunny Side Up will be picking the track for this week. Looking forward to doing it again. Thanks to everybody always for checking in and listening to us play and voting for which one you like best. Speaking of which, we got DJ Sunny Side Up rocking in here himself. Good to have you in here, and good mashup, DJ Sunny Side Up. I think it's kind of cool when the mashups come down to taste. So that was good. We got, here we go, got Sadiq in here. Oh, in fact, Sadiq, I should have retweeted the thing that you sent me. Sadiq sent me a tweet of an Italian like super yacht launching in Turkey and either becoming the shortest lived luxury yacht of all time or the world's first transforming luxury super yacht submarine. It just like sank immediately, which is pretty, yeah, that was... Thank you for sending the link. That was kind of sad and funny to watch at the same time. Jane Watts, great to have you in here every week. No crickets. We're all here and appreciating your company. Who else we got in here? We've got MASH Battle Result is out. Yes, we've got Sadiq Quinn Rank. Glad that you can make it as always. Yeah. No, I was going for some drum and bass drops. So stand back. Pretty much all that you can say. Quinn Rankin, good to see you as always. We've got Tadom in here. To Dom, I was hoping I could extend my trip in America and maybe swing in a trip to California. I was thinking about it, but I couldn't do it. I've got too many things going on before and after. So it's going to be, kind of a very quick in and out trip to Seattle. But I got to say, there's so many, I realized as it got closer, there's so many things I want to do actually in America when I go there. Now I've got friends there and stuff. So I don't know. I'm going to convince work. I'm going to make it my mission on this trip to get myself another trip. And honestly, probably another trip where I'm not like on commitments to large groups as I am this time. So we'll see what I can do. I'm definitely going to try to get back there in the coming months. So we'll see what we do. Jane Mott's pointing out that although I'm in New Zealand, you got some Tim Tams courtesy of your Australian aunt who's visiting. Well, that's lovely. You can get, of course, Tim Tams. Oh, but in the UK, can you not get Tim Tams in the UK? By the way, my mother is Australian, my sister is Australian and British, so I don't take as much offence at associations with Australia as some people do. I like Australia, honestly. All except for their rugby team. But Tim Tams are good. Tim Tams are one of the things we can be appreciative of. And I'm glad that you got some. Actually, I should show you. When I was in Australia, in the import section of the supermarket, they had my favorite sweets in the whole world. And they are not popular and they're disappearing. And now you can only get them in the UK or the import section in Australian supermarkets. And I got a whole bunch. And they're too sweet for me now, so I can only eat like one or two at a time. But let me show you. These fellas, Roundtree's fruit gums. They're like harder than normal like gummies. They're really kind of chewy and hard, and I think they confuse people because of that. My father liked them, and he'd always give them to me as a kid when you could buy them in New Zealand and Australia. But they've sort of gradually disappeared. I really like these, and I discovered something really cool about these. While I can no longer eat Australian or New Zealand or British like sweets, which are basically just dyed in sugar, gives me headaches, makes my head spin and my throat go dry. I have discovered that when I'm running 10K or longer runs, I can use this as like a running gel. The kick of energy this gave me. I normally run peak threshold for about 1.5K or 2K for full threshold, doing a training run. And I comfortably did 2 kilometers on these. And today I did it again. I'm thinking I might just see if I can push out even further. So I think I'm actually going to convert these into being running. You can actually get running gummies that people take while they're running long distances for kicks of energy. And this works. So yes, British. We can do an exchange of Tim Tams for fruit gums, if that makes any sense. Anyway, Dan H, we've got saying hello to Erin. Oh, Erin made it in here. Good morning, Erin. Moderator, great to have you in here as always. Hiko Stateside, what kind of car am I going to rent this time? Well, I'm going to be literally in meetings every day. I've just got it, even the weekend. I tried to fly out on the Friday so I could have the weekend. But I had to push that into Saturday because I've got meetings and stuff on Friday. I tell you what, if I could go rent a car again, the Teslas were fun, but in Seattle, I may well get attacked for driving one now. So I think the 2 cars that I enjoyed the most the last time were the Jeep Wrangler, which is a car I would consider buying if I lived in America, and the Corvette C8, which, although the performance of Teslas, like the straight line, the acceleration, everything of Teslas matches the Corvette C8, damn, that was like driving a Formula One. That was like driving, a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. That was memorable. And I think if I was going to go get a car for a special occasion, I would get the Corvette C8 again. But I haven't made a list this time because again, I don't have enough time. So hopefully, I will do maybe get a car like that and go around California and go sightseeing a little bit as well. And actually, I want to get across. I want to see a bit of America. In fact, it'd be really cool to actually do a bit of a tour and meet some of you folks over in America. I certainly do want to get to Florida. I want to watch a rocket launch. So many bits and pieces. California, I definitely want to see more of. I love California. So we'll see where I end up with all of that. But yes, remember everybody liked the videos. Tim Tams. Yes, everybody knows Tim Tams. They're like Nicole Kidman. They're from Australia and everybody likes them. So yes, we've got Tim Tam ice cream cake. Holy crap. I mean, you just can't mess up with Tim Tam. So there you go. We've got Masashi Mark in here. Great to see you, Masashi Mark. Thank you as always for joining. Turkish. So the boat. Oh, the boat is Turkish. It's just called Dolce Vento. It's like something like that, right? It was an Italian name, so I thought maybe they were Turkish making the boat for Italian people. Who knows? But anyway, it's a submarine now. Yes. Kibra said she saw Greece, Turkey copying North Korea's newest warship that sank immediately at launch. Was it Greece and Turkey? I mean, that might explain why it sank if it was both Greece and Turkey. I don't know. Maybe it got into a fight with itself. Speaking of which, Black Tengu, off to the Greek islands again. Oh, the stress of it. Sounds terrible. I mean, I'm sure that all the people living on Santorini were living very stress-free until, the Bronze Age ended abruptly. But yes, other than occasional catastrophic explosions, yes, I'm sure the Greek islands are lovely, and I would love to go, and I've been meaning to do that. Yeah, I was thinking that, Dan H. I figured that, but still, when you get them from Australia, it's kind of special. Oh, Jane Motts, fruit gums. Cultured, you like drum and bass and fruit gums. So see, I like British stuff. By the way, drum and bass is huge in New Zealand, but I liked it before it was popular in New Zealand. It got popular after I left. Drum and bass was so rare that they let me play it on student radio in New Zealand. Because it wasn't that common. It was sort of underground in the 90s when I was there, which was the golden age of drum and bass, if you ask me. But yes, yeah, I like British stuff, just not the food or the weather. But yeah, I'll tell you, there's good stuff that comes out of the UK, including yourself. Who else we got here? We've got Dan H. We've got Shubas in here. Glad that you can make it. New icon, by the way, Shubas. Never fear, Shubas is here. What the hell are you holding in those jars, sir? Is that the coffee? Is that the Panamanian coffee? I want to try some of that. There's lightning. Wow, that is a hell of a new avatar. I am very impressed. Aaron, fears no longer. Indeed, we've got a coffee kampai. Shibas has made it. Our man in Panama. I got Eric Bailey. Great, now we can start. Haven't been to America in 10 years, and the thing you miss most is Mexican food. People told me Americans always complaining about Japan doesn't have good Mexican food. Okay. And I was in Seattle, which by some measures is it's not the furthest place in America from Mexico, but in many ways it is quite far away from Mexico. Certainly, I excitedly went to go and check out this famous Mexican food that Americans always complain in Japan that doesn't exist in Japan. And I don't know, a lot of it was really bland and crappy. I did find the only good Mexican restaurant I found in Seattle anyway, and by the way, this applies to all types of restaurant. I never found a single good Japanese restaurant. So I found a good Mexican restaurant, but it was Tex-Mex. It wasn't really Mexican. So I'm pretty sure people in America probably, at least where I went, not doing Mexican food justice. So yeah, but certainly I should have had Mexican food when I was in San Diego. I was literally just trying to get down, touch the border post, and go back up to Los Angeles for the day. But there we go. Dan H asking, did I see your news headline drop at the beginning? You did mention a couple. You mentioned that Mitsubishi withdrawn from wind projects. I saw that last week. It's not really enough for me to add to the topics, but yeah, apparently they said that the cost of installing wind energy is like gone up threefold. The equipment is so in demand and so on. So the economics of the deal did not really add up. Oh, you know what? I think I missed this one. Suntory CEO stepping down. Charlie stepping down. Australia drink grave offering. Family Mart. 102-year-old climbs Mount Fuji. Was that the... I saw a few of those stories. I saw the 102-year-old climbing Mount Fuji, but again, not something that I included in the topics for tonight. But yeah, appreciate that. Obviously, the big story taking over, of course, tonight is the Prime Minister resigning, which I'll talk about in a moment. New icon, the lightning catches. Nice. We got Anyone Swordfish. Good to see you. Hey, it's been a while indeed. You saw that Ishiba's out. Do I know that there is a system in Japan where good mayors can become ministers? I heard very good things about Takashima in Fukuoka. I have not heard anything about Takashima in Fukuoka. You can appoint ministers, I believe, from outside of government, although it is rare, but it happens. It has happened in the past. Normally, the problem is that cabinet positions are favors and rewards that people hand out in exchange for political support and a quick opportunity to bring money to your hometown. So they could do that as mayors, but I think that's quite unusual. They can become vice ministers, but even then, I mean, vice ministers tend to be professional bureaucrats. So yeah, but that said, Fukuoka is an exceedingly well-run city, and I think it's acknowledged as such. So yeah, it'd be good to take some of those learnings. And certainly, often local mayors and governors do well when they go into national politics. So yes, and why have Mexican food in Gringoland? Asks Stan H. And something like that. Certainly in I mean, but America, it does have good Mexican restaurants, I believe. I just wasn't in the best places to have them. Oh, believe in yourself. Good to see you believe in yourself. Most Japanese restaurants in Toronto, Canada are run by Koreans. For a long time, and same applied in Auckland. I had lots of Japanese friends in all the Japanese restaurants. Pretty much a large percentage of them were run by Korean people. And I always had this thing where the way the Koreans make sushi, they use different rice, they use different seaweed. And, it's different. Honestly, the seaweed is great. Korean seaweed is great, but in sushi, it's too harsh. You actually have to like get your teeth into it to chew through the sushi, which just doesn't fit. And given how much I love Korean food, I love the gochujang paste in any food. It makes it better. Why come to New Zealand and make crappy Japanese food? Why not make great Korean food was always my thing. That said, of course, there are probably good Korean Japanese restaurants as well. Certainly yakiniku is all typically Korean run. And very popular, obviously, having the barbecue. But yeah, and American Mexicans make the best Chinese food. Thank you, Eric Bailey. I feel like a full circle has come around there. Lara's made it into the chat. Nice to see you here as always. You fell asleep. Well, you're in Japan, and it is currently 10:46 in Japan. If you have woken up, don't worry. I will be putting you back to sleep as soon as we can. We got Aaron saying hello to Lara. We've got Jane saying hello to Lara, saying hello to Aaron, saying hello to Lara. We've got all the ladies in the place. Nice to see. We've got Lysander 45. Great to have you in here. Good evening to you. We got Sadiq saying hi to people. Wow, we've got a party going on. EU is run by ignorant bureaucrats. Yeah. That's the reputation. Certainly, and my business-related experiences relating to EU seem to give me the same sort of impression that yes, business people get the hell out if they've got a good idea because you get so bound down on red tape there. But yeah, and there's good intentions, and some of the regulations there are good, and there's some critiques that places like Japan and America, don't have regulations where they are appropriate. But certainly, talk about overcompensating. EU has its own issues. And Jane Mott's agreeing with that. And I think we're caught up on comments, so I'm going to dive into the topics. So the big one anyway, which I should just talk about first. In fact, do I have a link for it? This isn't really much of a sequential order. I found that I accidentally put a lot of these stories out on Twitter instead of Blue Sky, so I had to come back and fix them later. But the big story tonight is this guy. Ishiba today resigned. He said, I never, screw you guys, I'm going home. He actually, earlier this week, he was waiting for the right timing to give he's very keen to express his views on the end of war. And he didn't express it on the date of the end of the war, but he's a military nerd. He's in the LDP, so he's not like a conservative within the LDP, but he's a nationalist. And as PM, he is looking for the opportunity to give a speech, sharing his views on the war, and was looking for 3 days ago was saying he was looking for the right time, which is hilarious because today he quit. Well, he's staying in the role until the new PM is elected by the LDP political party. As you may recall, I mean, it was only 11 months ago that we had the last LDP presidential election, which is it's an internal party election, where members of the LDP in Parliament, as well as in constituencies, members are card-carrying, fee-paying members of the LDP all vote for who they want to have as Prime Minister. And again, these stories are a bit out of sequence, but I think it was Nick Out. Here we go. In terms of popularity, well, this will let me see this. God, no ads, get out of the way, Cloud Surfer, Max, piss off, Tojiru. I want to see the picture. Why is the picture smaller on the page than in the actual? I just want to see the picture big. Okay, let's just do it this way. So in terms of popularity polls for who people would like to be the next prime minister, which is really kind of, while Ishiba is incredibly unpopular and there's a majority of disapproval of him and his cabinet, he still is 21% preferred to be the next prime minister, which is reflective in terms of public polls. But the public don't get to vote for the leader of the LDP. Only the LDP votes for the head of the LDP. But in spite of the fact everybody hates his guts and has given up and his party suffered a huge defeat in the last election and everything is going terribly, he still, there's nobody better waiting in the wings. There's no charismatic person waiting to turn him out. He's still 21% most preferred prime minister. Second choice of prime minister, who's appropriate to be the next prime minister is the question. And in terms of respondents to this Mainichi poll, second one is Takaichi Sanae, who is from the far right of the LDP, backed by Yoshiro Mori and Taro Aso, but she could be Japan again. With Ishiba out of the way, she came second in the last prime ministerial internal election, and Ishiba's not going to run this time. So it's pretty much going to be a contest. There'll probably be a lot of people sort of make their claims for future runs for prime minister. So there'll probably be lots of candidates, especially now that they've abandoned the faction system within the LDP. But in terms of people with a practical chance, it's probably going to come down to Koizumi, Shinichiro Koizumi, and Sanae Takaichi. And at least public polls say that even though there was a time when I considered Sanae Takaichi to be a drooling right-wing maniac, I think she's actually mellowed out from the old days where she used to be kind of one of those, trying to prove that she's more conservative than the other conservatives by just saying stupid shit all the time. I'm talking like 15 years ago. She used to be kind of unhinged. Now that basically Abe was more or less grooming her to be a future woman, a future prime minister, and the first woman prime minister. And a lot of his factions are backing her. And that's why she's now, and it's all sort of real, she's becoming more practical minded. And one thing about Japan that I will give credit, other than, of course, even when Japan has like idiot far right-wing prime ministers, and we've had them, Yoshiro Mori and Taro Aso or whatever, the way that the Japanese government works is no one in charge really is ever really in charge. And they all sort of know that they're in the job temporarily, and their job is pretty much to take care of everyone else. So there's kind of like, where certain people, not naming any journalists in particular, Jake Adelstein, and others would always say, for example, when Abe became prime minister, that this is the end of the world. He's Japanese Hitler. It's all over and so on. In the end of the day, Abe was pretty practical minded. I mean, look at what's happened with foreigners in Japan. For an anti-immigration, far right-wing LDP person, it was pretty much, he oversaw some of the most liberal reforms that Japan's ever seen because they were practical and they were recommended by the government. And I think Takaichi's in the same sort of mold. She has far right-wing beliefs and ideology, but ideology doesn't really have anything to do with the LDP or running the government. It's literally just a elbowing to get onto the Chuo line in Hachioji. Knowing that if you don't sit down, you got to stand up for 1.5 hours with an old lady with an umbrella in your back. It's pretty much just a absolute, shit show. Shinichiro Koizumi, I would characterize, I've talked about him before, I would characterize him as the Ken doll of the Barbie sort of Ken doll. He's basically an attractive idiot. He's considered to be good looking by Japanese beauty standards, as was his father. And why did Ishiba fail? Well, it's not so much that he failed, so much as he never really succeeded. I see on the right-hand side drama happening in the chat. I'm seeing injuries and broken bones and stuff, and I'm trying to tell you a very interesting story about Japanese politics here, but even I find myself slightly more interested in the story of injury. I have to take a quick moment here. I heard this about the UK, that your prime minister had deputy prime minister, which honestly, let's face it, does anyone really care? I mean, I wasn't aware that UK even had a deputy prime minister. But But anyway, yes, the deputy prime minister had to resign because she dodged tax on a property she owned and subsequently sold. Yeah, this is kind of awkward. Sainted Sir, good morning, New York City. Great to have you in here. Japanese curry is awesome. I agree with that assessment. Anyway, has anyone here ever broken a bone? I have broken wrist. I've had a stress fracture on my foot. I've chipped off a bit of my ankle in a rugby game. That's about it. As a New Zealander, I actually had a bit of a complex that I'd gotten to 16 or 17 years old. Every New Zealander has like broken, at least it's kind of it's like having braces. It's like everybody in New Zealand has a cast from falling out of a tree or, attacking a whale or doing something. And the fact that I'd somehow gotten through to 16 and never broken a bone, I felt like meant I'd had too sheltered of a life. So I've not had serious breaks like that, but I've had some minor. I mean, I actually eventually did break my wrist in a hockey game, and not cool hockey, uncool hockey. I used to play field hockey, but there we go. I started playing rugby when it was safe and I was outside of New Zealand. But is this because you broke a bone? We've got people sharing broken bone stories. You just broken your ankle. Oh dear, that sucks. And fractured your tibia. Shit. Ow. Be sitting on your ass for 3 months. That sucks. I have torn an Achilles tendon, and I was on my ass for like literally not able to walk for a couple of weeks, and was not walking normally or running for a couple of months right during the pandemic. So it was good I didn't have to go into the office. That really sucks though. That is awful, and that sounds painful as well. Geez, please take care of yourself there, Aaron. I'm very sorry to hear that. Charlie's cast in 19th century German is probably very much like that. Yeah, I've broken my what do they call it? Metatarsal, I think they call it, of the feet. But yeah, that was just from running. Yes, Aaron, that is exactly what you should do. You should exactly say that, especially where you live. I think definitely attacking a whale would be the right story. Okay, I'm going to try. Anyway, I'll come back. Koizumi Jr., everybody, Lysander 45, everybody in Japan, all the politicians are Nepo babies, pretty much. I mean, Ishiba surprisingly isn't. So this is where I want to come back. Ishiba didn't lose trust. Ishiba became prime minister because the faction system became so sort of corrupt that there were slush money funds, and there was basically undeclared use of political donations for supporting friends, and it just got out and out money politics, and which is clearly violations of the elections law and so on in Japan. And so they had to disband them all, and so trust in anybody from the factions was sort of gone. And Ishiba, not everybody in the LDP is in factions. About 60 or 70% were in factions, but a large number of them were independents. And of those independents, Ishiba was somehow the leading. He had actually, as an independent, been able to be the defense minister in the past. He had other cabinet roles, and was sort of seen as the default. He had challenged. He came the closest. Nobody wanted to challenge Abe as leader. But as an independent, he did. And felt like that kind of made him entitled to be a successor after Abe left. And so when the faction system in the LDP more or less like self-imploded, he became the prime minister, and basically the LDP, whoever was going to be prime minister, everybody knew that the upcoming elections, upper house and lower house elections, LDP was going to get its ass handed to it because of how bad the corruption and mismanagement of the economy had been. And that was going to be unavoidable. So nobody from the faction, other than the fact that factions had been blown up, nobody from the factions could represent the LDP because that would make it look like they were still corrupt or whatever. So they were looking for someone outside, and Ishiba was the top independent. He was not involved in any of the bribe taking or anything like that. But at the same time, everybody wanted to express, and everyone hoped that by picking him, they might be able to deflect some of the anger towards the LDP. But of course, that didn't happen. Everybody was still pissed off at the LDP just because he's in charge. Even if you're an independent, you are still representing the LDP. In fact, the only time I've ever seen that play of choosing an independent to get the heat off the party has only worked once, and it was with the father of Shinichiro Koizumi. Junichiro Koizumi, when he became prime minister, he was, again, also considered good-looking by Japanese standards. And he had this sort of charisma. He was a very good-looking, charismatic, who pledged as part of his campaign to become leader of the LDP. His slogan was, "I will destroy the LDP and rebuild it." He is literally Bukuasuzo LDP. and Jiminto, I guess is what they call it in Japanese. And I had friends. I knew people that the mania. I mean, the thing was, Abe was like long lasting as PM, but he was never really popular. The only popular prime minister, I mean, genuinely popular prime minister Japan has had in the 26 years I've been here, was the father of Shinichiro Koizumi. And I knew people who had like his poster up at in their houses. People believed that Koizumi was like this savior of Japanese politics. And yeah, he did not. I thought it was kind of sick in a way, because in the end of the day, after Mori and after Aso and after so many and Obuchi and so many terrible prime ministers or failure prime ministers, and everyone was fed up with the LDP, this guy said, "Oh, I hate the LDP too, and I'm going to destroy it." And so they voted for him, and as a result, saved the LDP. And no one in the LDP did anything different. So it was a bit of a con job, actually. And I think it's kind of the same with his son, who honestly is just kind of like a political male bimbo, if I could use that term. When he was Minister of Environment, his biggest policy pledge was to make the environment sexy. Yeah, so now he's fixing the rice problem and actually doing interesting things there, getting a bit of a positive track record. Takaichi's on the sidelines because she's the biggest threat to him, so he's not giving her any chance to look good. But the Tamaki and Noda are both opposition party leaders, so this is just people saying that they don't want people from the LDP. Hayashi is the secretary of the current prime minister and is considered quite qualified, but again, nobody knows him or likes him. Kobayashi, this was a regional, I think a governor who actually was a surprise, did very well in the last election. Some people still want Kishida back, and that happens. Japan recycles prime ministers. Aso's been prime minister multiple times. Abe was prime minister multiple times. Why you would even launch this guy, Fujita, I don't know who he is, but he's 0%. But congratulations for getting on the board. I think I saw someone there mention Kono Taro. I'm a fan of Kono Taro, but I don't think he has any friends right now. So, yeah, his son doesn't have the hair, says Aaron, and that is an astute observation and is possibly true. That said, his brother is like an idol, like he's a TV, like Tarento, he's like a TV star. There are three brothers, and they all, they look similar, and they definitely get some of the charisma or from the father rub off on them, but at the same time, the front runner is Takaichi, who is not that charismatic, but I think she is competent. And I think even if it's not the woman that people want Japan to have as their first prime minister, just having any woman as prime minister who's not completely crazy, of which there are some in the LDP, Mio Sugita being the standout example. Again, some people saying, "Oh, she'd be Japan's Margaret Thatcher." Nobody in Japan ever would have any sort of power, and to the degree that Margaret Thatcher had. Politically, she probably thinks a bit like Margaret Thatcher, but no ability to do anything. So, yes. Nepo babies are the standard in Italy. So there you go. Am I still a fan of Kono Taro Kono? I am. He's got a good sense of humor. He's competent. He's independent of the factions where all the really crappy stuff in the LDP is. And I trust that he is actually able to do things, and he's intelligent. Yeah, he's like the only person in the LDP I actually like, honestly. So yes, I'm still a fan of him, but he doesn't seem to be in the running this time. And even if he was, it would probably be just to get his head above the pulpit so that he could possibly run in the future. I think it's really going to come down to these two this time. But yeah, certainly we have, I hope someone better than the previous guy. Good luck. Yeah. So anyway, Ishiba never really had a chance, but also he didn't have the charisma that Koizumi had to pull off being an anti-establishment, incoming independent LDP member. He just never, and he didn't even care to be, charismatic. He was the opposite of charismatic. He underwhelmed everyone that he met, pretty much internationally and domestically. And, and everyone he saw, even in the election, when they were posting, when the LDP was putting up candidates that had been put up in the corruption scandal, and they were putting them up again, then what are they supposed? He's taking the blame for losing the election, but the party just sort of showed it's the same old LDP, and it's no different just because he's in charge. Koizumi was able to sort of gaslight people into thinking the LDP has changed. I can change, baby, I can change. No, it didn't change. It can't change. And Ishiba is just a kind of a reminder that there is really no hope. And and honestly, and everyone in his party has been trying to kill him, and no one in the public has wanted to defend him. Apparently, there has actually been a public petition to save Ishiba, probably just from people from his hometown. But no, he actually resigned today, and it's literally a screw you guys, I'm going home type of a deal, I think. The other thing is that like Kishida, I never really saw that Ishiba had a vision. I mean, he always seemed to be this huge military nerd. He always has models like Gundam ships and World War II battleship sort of models and stuff like that. And I was like, well, at least Japan might get some cool military stuff. I don't know, get some flying saucers and some laser beams and stuff. Maybe, build a wall around Taiwan to protect it from China. But no, not even that. I mean, Japan is spending more on defense now. But and even if he was, he wouldn't have really taken credit for it properly. So there you go. Anyway. What else have we got here? I am going to go through the other stories. I'm going to try not to chase the squirrels in the chat. This is an interesting one. I mentioned last week that Akazawa, who I see as kind of a trade rep, the trade representative of Japan, negotiating tariffs with whatever the hell that is running the United States right now. I mean, are the tariffs even legal at the moment? I mean, who knows? Who cares? Honestly, this is like typhoon paper. This is literally a paper typhoon. The U.S. administration, everyone's sort of waiting it out, wondering what the hell they're going to do. But Japan negotiated a trade deal with America, and it involved specifically lowering auto tariffs from 27.5%, I think it was, to something like 17%, which upset all the US automakers, saying that our cars are much shittier than 17%. We need more protection than 70% tariffs. Have you seen our cars? Please, we even 27% isn't enough to protect us from competition from well-made, competent, attractive cars. 17%, you're just going to wipe us out, President. So there was backlash against the White House for doing a deal where they were going to allow Japanese cars with 17, with lowered tariffs, but still tariffs. But they also agreed, apparently, pharma and semiconductor. Japan was going to get most. Hey, Split Fries Media, good to see you in the chat there. Momentarily distracted. So anyway, apparently the other things that they agreed in the deal with the great deal maker was that Japan was going to get most favored nations, sort of favorable trading status for pharmaceutical companies and chip makers in America. And last week they were saying, if you do not, President Trump, if you do not write and sign an executive order making, enshrining our part of our deal, I will not visit you in America to start enacting the deal. And I thought that, as if Trump is ever going to listen to the trade representative of Japan making threats, telling him to write executive orders. But it is kind of a fair point for a guy who wants to be deal maker in chief. You negotiated a deal, but you didn't sign it. So Trump did respond. He signed the auto tariff executive order this week. And so Akazawa was getting ready to go off to America, but then he realized it was only for autos and not the other parts of the deal. And apparently Trump also said that the $550 billion in investment promised by Japan was going to be basically a piggy bank for Trump to use at his discretion to subsidize and give to American people, to which the Japanese government said, we both get to decide where that money goes that we provide to America. So no, you're wrong about that. And again, we're not going to give you anything until, Mr. President, you write these into executive orders, which, interestingly, it wasn't the Supreme Court, but I think it was an appellate court in the US said might not be legal anyway this week. But Japan said, hey, Orange Boy, sign the executive order or you don't get any money. It's kind of Japan actually, I was mocking them playing hardball last week, thinking, would America ever listen to them? But America's kind of listening. I mean, they want the money. They negotiated a deal. No point negotiating a deal and not signing it. So it's kind of impressive in a way to see Japan kind of bossing the US around on a deal that they got their ass totally handed to them on. But nonetheless, bossing America around, at least on, I demand that you sign this deal, which I completely screwed up and lost and handed Japan's ass over to America. I demand that you sign it immediately. If you can call that hardball, that's what it is. Maybe hardball, maybe hitting yourself with the baseball bat, kind of hardball. it's a form of hardball that I don't fully understand. But yeah, anyway, that is a thing. Badly behaving tourists. The next story on the thing. There was an Australian tourist recently that stole food and drinks from cemeteries that people left as offerings and streamed that stuff. Well, I think as punishment, they're going to have to send her to Australia. No, they don't do that anymore. Well, yeah, I mean, I technically, if they deport her, that is what would actually happen. It's kind of good old times, just like Grandpa. No, I say this as a half Australian, by the way, and it's funny. Yes, the whining about over-tourism is becoming a two-way street. So this article by the Asahi talking about how, Japan has a consumer hotline. There is an official consumer hotline for tourists, and they've featured the things that foreigners, tourists are complaining about Japan. There's so much news about, Japanese complaining about all these foreign tourists. What are Japanese? Apparently it received a record 388 calls for consultations, up from 161 the previous year, shattering the previous high of 264 set in 2019. I would point out Japan has 36 million tourists. So probably most people don't know that this exists. The National Consumer Affairs Center of Japan, the NCAC, has a consumer hotline for tourists. And 388 out of 36 million people found this and called up to complain. And what does it? Apparently, they established the hotline in 2018. They have lots of different languages to let you complain to them in. And the most common complaint was accommodation facilities, accounting for 27%. Callers said that they found garbage and hair left in their guest rooms, and that their rooms were smaller than they looked in the photos on the websites. They also said their purchased goods were broken after their luggage was handled roughly. So, I mean, yeah, I believe I've stayed in hotels and definitely outside of Japan and inside of Japan, and found that the rooms sometimes were not appropriately clean. There garbage in the rooms, not acceptable. Like finding a hair or two, like finding like a big bundle of hair, that would be a bit that would be bad. But I mean, I tell you what, for the prices that they're charging, fancy hotels, absolutely. Even business hotels generally are pretty decent in Japan. They're like Japanese airlines. They're not the best in the world, but you get a fairly safely predictable. Sometimes they smell of smoke. People still like to smoke in their hotel rooms, so make sure you always get a non-smoking if you don't like to smoke. But I wonder what kind of crappy hotels these were. But certainly, if these things happen, they would be legitimate complaints. Although the fact that this is like a national newspaper story, it paints a picture of all Japanese, hotel rooms being full of garbage and hair and smaller. I mean, smaller than advertised. Again, maybe people are baited and switched or shown a bigger room or something like that. But yeah, of the callers, okay. This is I skimmed over this earlier. I'm just seeing this now. Of these callers complaining about the hair and garbage in the rooms, 59.5%, 231 out of 36 million tourists of the people calling up to complain were Chinese speakers. So not necessarily Chinese. They could be Taiwanese, of course, or from Hong Kong, or from a lot of countries where they have Chinese speakers, but certainly a lot of PRC tourists. Followed by 97 English speakers, well, of course, 39 Japanese speakers, 10%, and 19 Korean speakers. So the biggest complainers are Chinese, followed by English speakers. No surprise there that we're disproportionately represented. Definitely 25%. English speakers probably make up far less than 25% of tourists, but glad to see that we're pulling our weight with the complaining. I do remember in Australia when they released the annual survey of British tourists to Australia, and the number one complaint of British tourists, surveyed British tourists, the biggest complaint that British tourists to Australia had was excessive sunshine. I mean, that's like me going to Britain and complaining about the food. It's an act of God. You can't complain about things that you can't control. I think the Australians have the highest skin cancer rate in the world. I think the Australians have noticed. Yes, there are some countries who just have national hobbies of complaining, and English speakers definitely pulling our weight there. Good to see. But again, somebody's going to read this and think that this is surveyed among all 36 million tourists when it's literally only 300. I mean, what is that as a percentage? It's literally, it's literally, there we go. The most common complaint. Oh, so yes. What else have we got? Some noted Japanese menus were, some people saw, again, this is Chinese people in particular, felt like they were double tier charging, that they were getting charged more than prices in foreign language menus, which people should beware. If you think you can get away with hiding the prices in Japanese, Google Translate is amazing. Tourists lately that I meet can read Japanese better than I can, and I can read it pretty well, but menus can be hard. But yes, is that a wind up, mate? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm making fun. Please don't take me too serious. But I swear that was a real story. It was too sunny. The number one complaint of British tourists in Australia, and it kind of says when your biggest complaint is too much sunshine, the country's probably doing okay. But it was kind of funny. British tourists make you sad to be British and take British Airways flights. The people literally the worst and biggest crybabies. Well, it's I mean, there is a thing, and it is actually even part of Australian and New Zealand culture that we have inherited from the old country, that complaining is a good thing to do because it makes everything better. It's like people become aware of problems and solve them, so you're doing them the favor of highlighting the things that they can do better. I know there is that mentality. I remember the conversations when I got to Japan about the shogunai culture. In Japan, nothing ever gets better in Japan because everything's just shogunai that can't be helped. Whereas, people need to complain more so that stuff improves. And that is genuinely the mentality. Although I think Japan's doing pretty okay compared to Australia. I mean, there are things about Australia that are definitely better. But anyway, Culture is a fun thing, and I will make fun of it because that is what I do. I'm here every week. Other stories that we have. Yes, Ishiba is still waiting for the right timing to express his views on the war's end. Oopsie. Turns out his tenure ended pretty much like the war. So, this is kind of an interesting one from my perspective. Japan to draw up a basic plan for AI. The Asahi here, kind of left-wing and critical of the government, sort of pointing out how other countries have real AI laws. Japan has a, kind of general advice. I know something about the AI law in Japan and the thinking behind it, and I kind of agree with it, although getting a little bit close to work, but staying away from that without getting too close. The Japanese government is deathly afraid that of Japan, of AI being something which, one, advantages English-speaking countries or Chinese-speaking countries that have large corpuses of captured language material. Japan is a disproportionate, in terms of language presence on the internet, for the whole global population, Japan is like a 0.01%. But for content on the internet, which I assume also includes pornography, Japan makes up like 10% of the internet. It's not that much, but it is significantly more than it is a population of the world. So Japan does hit above its weight, but there again, when like a solid 40-50% of content on the internet globally is English, and all that information can be used to train AI, that means English-speaking AIs and countries that use English have some significant advantages with AI. And there was a perception that Japan risks, just from its language being at this huge disadvantage to China and English-speaking countries, particularly the US, with regards to developing AI. So they've kind of said, and plus, Japan, they had Astro Boy, they have Gundam, they have Evangelion, both good and bad aspects. But Japanese has thought through the whole AI robots ruling us thing, and they're okay with it. So Japan is not really so AI safety focused. They're more on, we don't want to lose in this. We don't want to get left behind. So anything we can do to help, we want you to not be idiots, but at the same time, we're not going to put excessive regulations on you that slow down AI here, which might make us, lose some sort of AI technology race, which is very much the opposite to what Europe has done. And this is why many of Europe's best AI companies have gotten the hell out of Europe and are going to the US, because they can get funding and they can launch businesses without needing, as a tech lawyer who does AI stuff, I'm kind of an AI tech lawyer. The European requirement to have like 10, or practical need to have like 10 lawyers before you hire your first engineer sounds great to me, but the result is there's no AI companies hiring because, it's so hard to get off the ground there. Whereas in, other places less regulated, including Japan, you just have to be a nerd with a cell phone practically, or a cheap laptop, and you can develop AI applications. And Japan wants to let that happen unless there's, any sort of proof that anything sort of is going drastically wrong with it. So Japan is taking a lax attitude, but from the perspective that they really don't want Japan to be left behind, and they don't want to put any business constraints. However, that said, there are sort of global frameworks around this, certainly making sure that, for example, people don't use stolen data, or that AI is not used to automate firing people, or doing, killing people, or doing unethical sort of stuff. And a consensus is building around having rules for some aspects of AI, but generally Japan is like, well, at the moment, we just want Tetsuan Atom. We want Astro Boy. I've got Astro Boy somewhere around here. Astro Boy is awesome. And that is what they want. So, we'll get Astro Boy and we'll take it from there. But they are planning by winter to develop more than what they have. They currently have AI guidelines and they work pretty well. So, yes, Mosaics are half of the internet. They're pretty high. But remember, this is how the VHS beta was. I said, well, beta, just thinking, the percentage of people that understand what the VHS beta war was, is now, they're now dying of old age, and that's kind of a sad thing. Beta was my uncle would frequently lecture anyone who would listen how Sony beta format video cassettes were a vastly superior technical format to VHS. However, technical standards however, beta would not allow porn to be recorded on their cassettes. And as a result, nobody's heard of them anymore because everybody immediately bought all the VHS cassettes that they could get. So, this stuff matters. People want to see stuff. What else have we got here? The Keisei Skyliner. Gaijin Mummy, rightly, I did say sorry, but yes. The case, if you're in Narita and you want to get into Tokyo, the Narita Express, beautiful train, nice train, goes into Tokyo Station in Shinagawa, I think. It leaves like once an hour. You can be waiting for 40-50 minutes for the Narita Express to come, and then your connections are from Tokyo Station. Whereas if you are in Ueno or Nippori or near that sort of eastern part of Tokyo, the Keisei Skyliner is cheaper. They run multiple times per hour and is faster than the Narita Express. So lately, whenever I have to take a flight from Narita, I'm using the Keisei Express. The train even looks cooler. It's just a vastly superior train. So that the Keisei Skyliner train, they're actually upgrading it. They're going to make it go 10 minutes faster to the, I think, Nippori, to the end station, and will include with it stopping at Tokyo Skytree. To which I say, Skytree, I don't know, I should go up at some time, but it's in the middle of. It's where Gaijin Mummy lives, and I respect her greatly, but it is kind of a ghetto that no one really ever wants to go to. And it's expensive to go up and just see the view of all the sad people living in that part of Tokyo. So the fact that they're putting a train stop, maybe I should go. I haven't been up there. I should go up there sometime rather than just complain about it endlessly all the time. But yeah, it's there, it exists, but they're upgrading the train. Doesn't quite look as cool as the current one, if that's what it looks like. But if you're coming into Tokyo in Narita, I do suggest checking out the Keisei Skyliner. It's a good train. And it's often a better option, actually, than Narita Express. And it's the one I'm using all the time lately. This story, I've mentioned this before. You might not remember this. This is years ago now. The fact that this is still carrying on, this is a little bit like, let it go. Let it go. So in 2021, I believe it was. Oh no, 2024. Okay. This is actually in a court. So the original incident, years ago on NHK's sort of world service, where they have news in English and Chinese, hosted by foreign anchors and newsreaders who read the news. Apparently, a Chinese staffer that they had reading the Japanese news in Chinese so that people in China could hear the NHK, Japan's public broadcaster's perspective on the news. The staffer couldn't take it anymore and blurted out on the air that Nanking really happened, the Senkaku Islands belong to China, and screw Japan. And he started, apparently he put this into the script. He ad-libbed. It was a bit like Anchorman, where they adjusted the teleprompter and they made him read "Fuck you, San Diego." Well, this guy didn't need the teleprompter. He was just reading the news. Today it'll be fluffy clouds and 25, and Nanking really happened, and Japan needs to apologize, and the Senkaku Islands belong to China. He said that, and it didn't get detected right away because he was saying it in Chinese, and apparently nobody was checking up on him. Everybody, all the Japanese people recording, were like, "Well, that was a good news session, Guy." And Guy, apparently NHK has gone and chased him and taken him to court and has sued him for $75,000 for harming the reputation of Japan as a national broadcaster. And the judge saying that you must pay $75,000 in compensation to NHK for hurting the feelings. You severely undermine the public's trust in the objectivity and accuracy of NHK's aired content. I mean, certainly lots of right-wingers said, "Aha, we knew it all along. This is what the NHK really thinks. They really hate Japan and are pro-China." Nobody thought that. I don't know. And I'm pretty sure that the $75,000, I mean, this will be literally, he gets back to Beijing and someone at the airport is going to be like, "Oh, let me just check what's in my wallet. I think I can pay you back right now." Whatever the Chinese for a real shusho is, he's going to get it as soon as he goes back to China for doing that. And it really just highlights, honestly, that NHK, if you're going to have the news read in Chinese, check it sometime, perhaps, so. By the way, could you imagine the reverse happening? Do you think it'd be a court case and a stern telling off from a judge that nobody will believe Chinese news anymore if you had a Japanese broadcaster, if you had a Japanese newsreader in China suddenly saying the opposite sort of news, like Senkaku Islands belong to Japan? It wouldn't be a court case 3 years later and a $75,000 fine and a telling off that you have undermined faith in the national broadcaster. You wouldn't find the body. The person would be erased from existence. I still think this is kind of proof that Japan is a nicer country. But anyway, and honestly, did NHK really need to chase him for $75,000 compensation? Do they take crypto? Ask, believe in yourself. Who knows? Who knows? They probably will be in a couple of years. Stories about Japanese pilots drinking and getting caught drinking and being banned, they happen a lot. And in spite of the fact that there is a not zero chance, in fact, single digit, but significant single digit percentage chance, by my impression, that if you're on a Japanese airline, your pilot may at this moment be drunk. Apparently it keeps happening. A JAL pilot tampered with a testing kit to avoid getting caught with alcohol. I mean, I'd still rather fly, even knowing this information, I would still rather fly JAL, it's certainly ANA, than Qantas or any US airline. But please, I mean, seriously, this is like the 1980s. This is like, I've only had 3 vodkas, I can still drive, your airplane. I don't know. I mean, the planes mostly fly themselves nowadays anyway, I suppose. Apparently, Ishiba cited the tariff deal as a reason for his resignation. That is a gross oversimplification by Mainichi. Specifically, he was saying that he wanted to see the tariff deal through to its obviously highly successful conclusion, where Japan just got like bent over like the pommel horse in Pulp Fiction. The underground and that was what happened to Japan in the negotiation, but Ishiba wanted to see it through, and it's done, and we're done. And Japan says, thanks, Trump, both sarcastically and factually, because we got rid of the prime minister, who wasn't very popular, although still it's more popular than anybody else who wants to be prime minister. I mean, Japan, every party political poll is we hate everybody, is pretty much how it goes. In other news, I mentioned at the start of the news, now the end of the news, Groundhog Day. It's the hottest year again. The records here are kind of remarkable. The average apparently this year was 2.3 degrees Celsius above normal, like throughout Japan all summer. Last year, the previous 2 years were also records. Each time it was 1.76 above normal last year. So it is getting hotter at an exponential rate. I mean, and certainly the number of days that we've had above 30, like 37, 36, I mean, even 35 is considered officially the official meteorological term in Japan for a 35°C day is crazy hot. They literally have a crazy hot as an index. And it's just stayed above crazy hot every day for months, where it used to only happen it was a special thing if it happened, and it's become normal. So yeah, anyway, Ishiba's gone. I won the mash battle, drum and bass. That was good. Speaking of which, we are now with other stories this week. Japanese cities use social media to teach Japanese manners. I think they should have this message, standing on the wrong side of the escalator, straight to jail. That's what they should say. They probably don't. Oh yeah, Japan just approved the over-the-counter morning after pill, which is a thing. Better late than never, but it is crazy how Japan, it got to a point in the 90s where only Japan and North Korea had not approved the female contraceptive pill. And yet, while they had, while Parliament had actually blocked approval of the female contraceptive pill for like 40 years, when Viagra came out, Parliament held a special session to give Viagra specifically an accelerated approval, which was kind of the breaking point for feminists. And they came on and they sort of said, "Hey guys." There is a lack of symmetry in this decision making. Similarly delayed legislation there, but better late than never. After party time, maybe possibly some drum and bass. I'm going to set up. It's going to take me a couple of minutes, so come and join me on Tokyo Digital Crew for some after party music, where you guys get to choose the music. If DJ Sunnyside Up is there, perhaps he will choose one of those for the next for the next round of for the mash battle. Looking at comments quickly, I see, do they still build the families for the bullets? I think that was more of an African thing, but who knows? People are accused of hurting the Chinese people. Yeah, it's a Uno reverse card moment. Yes, indeed, that is exactly what that is. Anyway, music time. I'm going to go over if someone, oh yes, Aaron's posted the link, so see you over on the other channel. I'm going to set up as quickly as I can. You guys pick the songs. I will mash with them. See you in a minute. And next week, just repeating, I will be in Seattle next week. So I may record something, but normally I don't. I'll probably be a skipped week, I'm afraid. But I will see you the week after next, after a very long day, where I'm going to be going. Yeah, I'll be going out on the Sunday as well. So I'm going to be jet lagged and completely dead next week after next. It should be fun if you want to see me like that. But anyway, say subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Instagram and Blue Sky and Tokyo Digital Crew, because there will be a mash battle this week. See you on the after party. Boom. Peace. See you later. And thank you. Remember to like the video, and thank you always for keeping me company. Here we go.